I am Tracy, who works from home part-time. My husband Donald is a 35-year-old company employee. His parents live in a location that is about an hour drive away. I have a difficult relationship with my in-laws, especially my mother-in-law. Due to certain circumstances, I did not attend high school, but my mother-in-law did not like that. My mother-in-law was strongly opposed to our marriage, but Donald pushed through and we got married in a semi-coercive manner. If you don't approve of our marriage, I will cut ties with you. My husband threatened his parents. My mother-in-law, who dotes on our son, eventually gave in, and we now maintain a somewhat distant relationship with his parents. However, whenever we meet face to face, my in-laws continue to make snide remarks. How can a high school dropout with low education be the wife of her son? Working from home? It is because she's a high school dropout who can't get a decent job. She's trying to leech off Donald and drain our family's wealth, isn't she? I have no intention of causing trouble for your family, so please don't worry about that. I have been hiding the truth of my work from my in-laws due to certain reasons, and no matter how many times I try to explain it to them, they don't listen to me. Then Donald suggested explaining my job in detail to his parents. I think Mom will understand if you explain your job properly, you know. Well, like you said before, she may try to take advantage of that. No, honey. If there is a possibility that you will have to cut ties with your family, then I don't need to tell them about my job. Besides, it's more convenient for me to be seen as a stupid wife. If that's what you want, Tracy. But if you are pushing yourself too hard, then you should tell me, okay? My husband and I discussed it, and we decided not to explain my job to my in-laws. Instead, I pretended to be a naive wife and dodged their snide remarks when we visited them. Tracy? Normally, a daughter-in-law returns to her husband's family during holiday events and helps with the kitchen work and entertaining guests. Oh, I see. I didn't know that because I never had the opportunity to learn those old traditions. I'm sorry if I offended you. I always pretend to apologize but never did what she demanded. My relationship with my in-laws remains distant and strained. I'll teach you everything, Tracy. You ignorant and uneducated daughter-in-law. My mother-in-law tried pushing various tasks on me and would then relentlessly criticize the results. I could have chosen not to visit them at all, but if I did that, my mother-in-law would call me endlessly on the phone, so I went just to avoid that. I also had the thought that if my mother-in-law hated the idea of me visiting, that would be okay. But the more I failed, the more she became enthusiastic about educating me. To make matters worse, she started complaining about me in front of relatives and neighbors. My daughter-in-law is uneducated and can't do anything, you know. She comes to greet us at such a late time, and she's always just lounging around. As a result, it became well known that my relationship with my mother-in-law was not good. If my husband was present, he would fend off troublesome relatives, and I would also speak up for myself. I'm also trying my best, you know. Plus, I didn't graduate from high school due to certain circumstances, but I've received a good education from my parents at home. They taught me that meddling in other people's households is a vulgar act. What? Instead of being grateful for an advice, you say sarcastic things. The relative, who apparently did not expect me to argue back, left angrily with trembling lips. Donald and I were stunned by the scene and tried to forget about it. However, My mother-in-law, who had heard about the incident from a relative, scolded me. I always thought you were unreasonable, but I didn't think it would be this bad. Tracy, I'll make sure to report this to your parents. Are you planning to say something about my parents too? And besides, my parents believe in individualism. So even if you report something like this to them, they'll probably just shrug it off. Their motto is that they handle their own household affairs. My mother-in-law opened her mouth to say something, but my husband intervened. Right now, Tracy is enduring everything, and even telling me not to cut ties with you guys. I'm just staying quiet about your rude behavior for her sake. When Donald said this, she glared at me with resentment before leaving the room. After that, the relationship with my in-laws maintained minimal involvement with each other. 2 years has passed. One day, we suddenly received a call from my father-in-law. He said that they had decided to celebrate their 30th wedding anniversary by going to a trip to Paris, and asked if we wanted to come with them. It's not good to keep our relationship with your mother and Tracy as it is now. That's why I want to improve our relationship on this trip. And I also want to apologize. Please, come with us. Even though both my husband and I were quite suspicious, we realized that our past behavior towards them was also quite bad. While Donald wasn't fully convinced, I thought that if we could really improve our relationship, it would be worth it. Donald, let's give the trip a chance. If anything bad happens, we can cut ties with them. I managed to pursue my husband, and we went on a trip to Paris with our in-laws. On the day of the trip, we met at the airport. Thankfully, they didn't show any signs of bad behavior. I'm so glad you came. I'm sorry for what happened back then, Tracy. My mother-in-law apologized to me for the past behavior, and I felt relieved that we had a good start to our trip. While waiting for our flight, my mother-in-law talked to me. I have been attending a French language class recently. The teacher is from Paris, and he's given me a lot of compliments. So, I'm really looking forward to speaking French with the locals on this trip. Tracy, do you mind if I ask, how good is your French? I haven't really studied French, but I can speak a little bit. Oh yeah? Well, if you need any help, just let me know. I felt a hint of sarcasm in her voice, but I realized that I might have been overly sensitive. I smiled and played it off. After a long flight, we safely arrived in Paris. My mother-in-law immediately asked me to talk to our airport staff to test my French skills. Tracy, I want to know how much French you can speak. Ask him where the baggage claim is. Come on, show me your French ability. My mother-in-law had an unpleasant grin on her face as she pointed to a nearby airport staff. Well, it's okay I do that, but I think it's a bit rude to point out someone like that. It could start a fight, you know. It's better not to do it. Then I spoke to the staff. Then I easily found out where to pick up our luggage and guided my in-laws there. When my mother-in-law heard my French, her face turned pale for a moment, but she quickly laughed at me and made fun of me. Looks like they're friendly to tourists. It's amazing that they understand your clumsy French. Well, then, from here on out, should we rely on your French? What do you think? What? Why do I have to come all the way to Paris and take care of you? Let me enjoy Paris on my own pace. Donald and I were amazed and appalled at my in-law's intentions. But right after that, my mother-in-law was called over by airport staff. It seemed that she couldn't understand the rapid French that the staff were speaking and was starting to panic. I could have ignored it, but I stepped in to help. The staff offered a guide and showed us the way, but we had to be careful because sometimes guys would demand high tips, especially from tourists. When I refused the offer and explained the situation, my in-laws became angry. We know what we're doing. Don't interfere and act so high and mighty. Yes, he's right. You can hardly speak French, so don't meddle. Okay? We don't want to cause any more trouble. So, let's go our separate ways from here. We want to go shopping, so we'll head to the hotel ourselves. Yeah, let's go. There's no point in being together if they're going to act like that. Donald was upset than I was at my in-laws' behavior. He took my hand and led me away. It was a little unpleasant feeling to leave my in-laws behind in a foreign country, but they should be able to handle themselves. We decided to take drastic action and cut off all the contact with my in-laws, instead of trying to improve our relationship. After enjoying our first stay in Paris to the fullest, we headed to the hotel. Then, there was a commotion in the lobby, and we saw my in-laws there. It turned out that they had tried to cancel our room without our permission. However, the room was paid for with my card, and the hotel staff explained that they couldn't cancel it because without proof of identity. My in-laws didn't understand the French and caused a minor scene. What's going on here? We don't want to stay in the same hotel as shameless people like you. So please leave quickly. We actually prepared this hotel as a gift for you two. So if you don't like it, why don't you change to another hotel on your own? It's impossible for me to speak that kind of French. Oh, I see. Then we'll change the room grade so that we don't meet during our trip. Is that okay with you guys? I explained the situation to the hotel staff and had them upgrade our room grade. Why does your language work so well? They couldn't understand what I was saying. Then I told her the secret I had kept from them all this time. I'm sorry to confuse you. My father is American, as you know, but my mother and grandmother are from France, so I naturally learned to speak French. And my grandfather is from Spain, so I can speak Spanish too. Also, I graduated from university. What? What does that mean? You didn't even go to high school, did you? Well, do you know what skipping grades means? I didn't go to high school, but I was able to skip grades in university. Now I work from home, mainly as a translator and interpreter for French and Spanish. I've been good at language since I was young, and I've self-taught Chinese and Japanese as well. As I finished explaining, the employee said that the room was ready and led us to the room, leaving my in-laws behind. My mother-in-law continued to make a fuss behind us. If you make too much noise, the security guards will be called. I won't interpret for you if that happens. You don't want to be arrested and prohibited from entering the country, do you? As I told them that, they immediately fell silent and headed to their own room. When we got to our room, Donald deeply bowed his head to me. Tracy, I'm really sorry. I had a bad feeling, but I never thought my parents would do something so stupid like this. I don't want to deal with these people anymore. I'm sorry that you have put up with it all this time. I want to cut ties with them for sure this time. No, I'm sorry for ignoring your opinion. It is about your family, so I'll follow your decision. We talked about the future again and spent the remaining days of our Paris trip fully to ourselves. Then, on our last night, When we were about to eat at the hotel restaurant, we witnessed an interesting scene. It was my mother-in-law exchanging some words with the restaurant staff. The staff was saying, "Please speak English," and he was speaking in English. The staff kept saying this to my mother-in-law, but she ignored him and kept talking to him in French, which she could not pronounce, and she never got her order. I couldn't help but laugh at the scene, and it felt bad for the staff, but I recorded the conversation from a nearby seat. Then they realized we were nearby. My father-in-law came to our table to ask for help. "Can't you see that your mother is in trouble? Why aren't you coming to help?" "Well, I thought you were confident in your language skills that you gained in the French language school. And if I show, your wife will get upset, won't she? Since it's the last day of the trip, I think it's better to end it happily. Enough. Just help her already. I'm sorry, but I explained earlier that I do translation and interpretation for work. If you want me to do it, I'll do it for a proper fee." What a greedy person you are. I'll pay you whatever you want. Just do it quickly. Although my father-in-law was angry at my words, he surprisingly accepted to pay me for my help. I decided to interpret for them. I smoothly placed the order, but my mother-in-law started to get angry with me. "I didn't need your help." "Is that so? Your husband begged me to interpret for you. Even he had to pay me for it. If you have any complaints, please tell him, not me." I explained and then returned to my seat. The next day, when my in-laws got on the bus to the airport, the atmosphere was terrible. They had obviously fought after dinner. After returning home, Donald and I visited my in-laws to declare our estrangement and to demand payment for the interpretation service. However, my mother-in-law, who knew we were coming, had invited some friends from French lesson over to her house to complain about me. As soon as the ladies saw my face, they frowned. My mother-in-law confirmed my arrival and began to speak sarcastically in front of me. She lied about her own career to us. Her and those. How shameless it is to say you want help unless you pay for it when they were in trouble. So I fought back by showing the ladies video footage with sound of my mother-in-law causing trouble for the staff with her poor French and demanding that we separate. We filmed our trip as a memory, so please enjoy it. The ladies were shocked by my mother-in-law's behavior and said, Maybe she didn't have enough French language skills yet?" They smiled wryly, while my mother-in-law's face turned bright red as she lowered her head. "Mom, does it feel good making fun of Tracy with your friends? I can't deal with you and Dad anymore. Don't contact us anymore. Never. This is a fee for the interpretation service that Tracy did. She helped you, even though all of this happened. So it's only natural that you pay her back properly. Bye." Donald quickly told me to leave, and before I could even say anything, he took my hand and left my in-laws' house in a rush. But as soon as we got the word that the payment was complete, my father-in-law demanded that I make things right with them and my husband. I only have a middle school education, so I'm not good at negotiating in situations like this. I just replied that and blocked him. I don't know what happened to my in-laws after that, but Donald said that he won't be involved anymore and that I don't need to worry about it. So I'm not concerned. I had been hiding my translation work because I had a past experience where I was asked to do unpaid or low-priced language lessons by an acquaintance, and it caused me trouble. Thanks to that experience, I was able to easily demand payment from my in-laws as a form of retaliation. so it was good. Now that we've already moved, I'm working comfortably without being ridiculed by anyone. Maybe it is about time to learn another language to broaden my horizon even wider.